The NFL draft is like a guessing game where every single year teams believe that they've got their guy, the future of the franchise, they'll call him, and every year teams get it wrong. Well, in this video, we'll be giving them a second chance. We'll be going back to the last 10 NFL drafts and redrafting the top 10 overall picks. From the debates of Patrick Mahomes versus Myles Garrett, all the way to if Brock Purdy should go from last overall, all the way to first. We'll be covering it all in today's video. This is Full-Time Takes. I'm your host, Kellen, and with that, let's get into it. We'll start out with the 2016 NFL Draft, and at pick number 1, I have the Los Angeles Rams selecting Dak Prescott. Yes, I'm aware Jared Goff did lead the Rams all the way to a Super Bowl appearance, but Prescott is statistically better, and I believe he's more talented. Prescott is a 4-time Pro Bowler, and when healthy, has proven to be an MVP candidate for many years. At pick number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles, I have them taking Jared Goff instead of Carson Wentz. And this is no knock on Wentz. I definitely believe that he was great in his own right. But Jared Goff has proven to be better and more consistent throughout his career. I think he'd be very good in Philadelphia's system. At pick 3, Tyreek Hill goes all the way from 5th round to a top 3 selection. He has a case for most dominant receiver since he was selected. Yes, he has fallen off a cliff recently and still hasn't signed with anyone, but that should not take away from his success. Joey Bosa is great, but the Chargers are not passing up on the former All-Pro. With pick number 4, the Dallas Cowboys are passing now on Ezekiel Elliott and instead are taking Jalen Ramsey. Zeke was great with Dallas, for sure, but the Cowboys definitely needed defensive back in 2016, and they are not passing on Ramsey. Wherever Jalen has gone, success has followed him. So the Cowboys end up selecting him one spot earlier than he originally was taken. At pick 5, without Jalen Ramsey on the board, the Jaguars are now selecting Chris Jones. Yes, Jones has fallen off a cliff with age, but he has been one of the best defensive tackles in the entire NFL. And not only that, he has been maybe the best game wrecker in recent history. All the double teams that he has forced back in Kansas City, I think, makes him worthy of being selected at pick number 5. At pick 6, Derrick Henry gets taken where he definitely deserves to be selected, heading to Baltimore a little bit earlier than he did in real life. The Ravens get a bona fide superstar and probably the best running back of our generation. It's almost a crime that he even falls this far to pick 6. With pick 7, the San Francisco 49ers are taking Joey Bosa, 3 years before they took his brother, Nick, in real life. Bosa is a 5-time Pro Bowler, and when healthy, has always delivered for the Los Angeles Chargers, and for a little bit for the Buffalo Bills. But in this redraft, he lands in a new home. Staying on the West Coast, yes, but ended up in San Francisco. The Browns, at pick 8, choose DeForest Buckner, who falls just one spot instead of being taken by the Niners at 7. Buckner is a 3-time Pro Bowler and has brought mad consistency with his play, specifically in Indianapolis. The Bucs, at pick 9, get a great interior offensive lineman in Joe Thuney, who replaces Leonard Floyd. Thuney is elite in the pass, and he has served his job well, being an NFL pass protector. Pretty cool job. The Bucs love seeing him at pick numero 9. Finally, at pick 10, the Giants, instead of taking Eli Apple, who definitely disappointed them in real life, they take Kevin Byard, who is a 2-time All-Pro and 2-time Pro Bowler. He trails only Antoine Winfield in PFF grades among safeties since 2020. That 2016 class is a great NFL class. And to start with the 2017 class, yes, I've got the Browns now selecting the 3-time MVP in Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this is the greatest quarterback of our generation, plain and simple. He has an argument for top 5, even top 2, when it comes to all-time discussions of quarterback. At his age of 30, that is insane. The Browns cannot pass on him. At pick 2, I have now the Bears selecting Myles Garrett instead of Mitchell Trubisky. So Myles, yes, he only falls one spot, and rightfully so, considering he's the best defensive player in the NFL since I'd say probably Aaron Donald. And he's the holder of the single-season sack record, 23 sacks in one season. That just blows my mind. With pick 3, I've got the 49ers now taking Christian McCaffrey instead of Solomon Thomas, and ending up with him several years earlier. Getting him to San Francisco early, I feel, in Kyle Shanahan's system, I think could have brought them a Lombardi, or at least helped them to get one. At pick 4, the Jacksonville Jaguars are now taking TJ Watt instead of Leonard Fournette. TJ Watt is a former Defensive Player of the Year and just an incredible defensive talent who moves up 26 spots in this redraft. And no offense to playoff Lenny. That dude had a run for sure. Don't discredit him. But I think we can all agree there are a lot of players, including TJ Watt, who are better than him. At pick 5, the Tennessee Titans are now selecting George Kittle instead of Corey Davis. Kittle is one of the most consistent and talented tight ends of the modern era. Picking him up and getting a premier offensive weapon for many years to come, at least in my opinion, of course, is the move. At pick 6, the New York Jets are now taking Marlon Humphrey instead of Jamal Adams. Adam was once upon a time a great defensive back until he got traded where he fell off of, I'm using this line a lot, this time a massive cliff after being traded. So in this redraft, I've now got the Jets taking a multi-time Pro Bowler who has proven to be very consistent throughout his career. At pick 7, Cooper Kupp falls right into the Chargers' lap. They get a former Offensive Player of the Year and Triple Crown winner. 1,900 yards in a single season is insane. Originally, they took Mike Williams, but who was a good receiver, yes, I know, in his own right. He deserves his credit, but they definitely get an upgrade here at pick 7. With pick 8, the Panthers still end up with a good running back, this time Alvin Kamara. Yes, we can both agree McCaffrey is better, but Kamara in his prime was a great pick. Multiple-time Pro Bowler and tons of 1,000-yard seasons. He jumps from round 3 to top 10. Next up, I've got the Bengals taking Chris Godwin instead of John Ross at pick 9. I mean, considering John Ross couldn't really catch the football. The Bengals get a proven star receiver who, when healthy, has posted big numbers in Tampa Bay. And finally, with pick number 10 of the 2017 NFL Draft, the Chiefs select, and this pick is going to be pretty controversial, Deshaun Watson. Yes, I'm aware that he's basically a felon and has the worst contract in NFL history, but just listen to me, all right? The Chiefs needed the quarterback of the future back then, and Watson was, once upon a time, a very good quarterback. He developed great in Andy Reid's system. So if he could stay out of trouble, stay out of the whole illegal stuff, I think this would be the pick for KC. We got a long way to go in this one, folks. So let's keep going. Next up, we've got the 2018 draft class. And at pick number 1 of this redraft of 2018, I've got the Browns now taking Lamar Jackson instead of Baker Mayfield. As a Bills fan, personally, I do believe that Josh Allen is the better quarterback of the two. But speaking on purely prospects and how they'd be developed, I trust the Browns to develop the future two-time MVP a little bit more than the project that was Josh Allen. Wow, we're talking about trusting the Browns to develop quarterbacks. This is a weird reality, folks. The Browns, again, are taking a quarterback. I'm so shocked. But then, at pick 2, Josh Allen does end up getting taken, this time by the New York Giants. And no offense to Saquon Barkley, who's an incredible player, but I do trust the Giants enough to where I can confidently say that Josh Allen would turn into the future MVP caliber player that he is today. At pick 3, the Jets take the best non-quarterback in this entire draft class, Fred Warner. Warner is an all-pro running back the Jets would take in basically any draft class. No offense to Sam Darnold, of course, but we both know how that pans out in New York. Freddie is definitely the pick for New York. At pick 4, we got our first selection of the entire video that's going to stay the same. The Browns, with the 4th overall pick, are still selecting Denzel Ward. He's a great corner and honestly a staple in Cleveland. I think they'd be set, and this would be a great draft class with them ending up with Lamar and Denzel. With pick 5, Jordan Mailata goes all the way from the 7th round to top 5, and the Broncos put together perhaps the best tackle duo in the entire NFL. He's a starter, a core piece of the Philadelphia Eagles, and the holder of the second highest single-season PFF grade for an offensive lineman ever. Oh, wow. That's a good stat for him. At pick number 6, we've got another same selection, with the Colts choosing Quentin Nelson. He's one of the best run blockers in the entire NFL, period, and a cornerstone of the Indianapolis offensive line and just offense in general. I don't see them changing their pick here. At pick 7, and this is another one that might be a little controversial, and funny enough, it involves a quarterback again. I've got the Bills taking Baker Mayfield. Mayfield proved in Cleveland, and then again now in Tampa Bay, that he can be a successful quarterback. And Buffalo was set on getting their QB of the future, and right now, in this redraft, Mayfield is the best on the board. With pick 8, the Bears get an absolute steal in Saquon Barkley instead of Roquan Smith. And Roquan is great in his own right. No one's taking that away from him, especially with his days in Baltimore. But Barkley has had many 1,000-yard seasons and would be a cornerstone of their offense for many years to come. If they could get the quarterback situation set, this team could have gotten good way quicker, especially on offense. Then at pick 9, the 49ers have 2 all-pro safeties on the board, but they end up going with Minka Fitzpatrick instead of Mike McGlinchey. Sorry if I mispronounced his name. Fitzpatrick has 3 first-team all-pros to his name and has been a bona fide superstar safety. Finally, at pick 10, I have the Arizona Cardinals taking Sam Darnold instead of Josh Rosen. Rosen was a bust and basically only had 1 season in Arizona before they gave up on him. Sam Darnold just proved that in the right system, he can be a very good NFL quarterback. At the end of the day, they need a QB, and Sam Darnold just won a Super Bowl as a starter in the NFL. Crazy story, man. Moving on, we've got the 2019 NFL Draft redo. With pick 1, I've got the Cardinals taking Nick Bosa instead of Kyler Murray. Kyler, when healthy, was a top 15 quarterback in the NFL at one point. But his tenure with Arizona just came to an end, and I think it's safe to say it was a failure. So in this draft, the Cardinals end up getting one of the best defensive players of our generation in Nick Bosa. But at pick 2, the San Francisco 49ers still get a very, very talented edge rusher, this time in Max Crosby. He's one of the best and most consistent defensive players in the entire NFL. The Raiders got him in the 4th round in real life, but now he jumps all the way to pick number 2. So fortunately for San Fran, they still get an all-pro edge rusher. At pick 3 of this draft, I have the Jets taking A.J. Brown, and that's no offense to Quinn Williams, who's one of the best defensive tackles in the entire league. But A.J. Brown is a very talented receiver. He just got traded to the Patriots after, frankly, an underwhelming season in Philly. But during his tenure there in Philadelphia, there were points where he was a top 3 level receivers in the entire league. The Jets happily take him with the 3rd overall pick. Next up, with pick 4, I have the Raiders taking Kyler Murray instead of Clelin Ferrell. Sorry if I mispronounced his name. With the undisputed top 3 players of this draft class being off the board, the Raiders are happy at pick 4 to take a chance at Kyler Murray. They bring him in this competition for Derek Carr. Oh, God. That name just puts a frown on my face. The Buccaneers at pick 5 take Chris Lindstrom and get help on their interior offensive line with possibly the best guard in the league. Lindstrom from 2023 to 2025 averaged a 95.5 PFF grade, which was 6 higher than any player in his entire position. A great and yet overlooked NFL player. With pick 9, the Giants still end up taking Dexter Lawrence, except this time they get him at pick 6 instead of pick 17, 11 spots up. He's been probably the best nose tackle in the entire league since he was drafted, and he's always been fun to watch, whether it be on or off the field. At pick number 7, the Jaguars still stay the same, selecting Josh Hines-Allen, who remains in Jacksonville. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler who, in good times and bad, has always been a bright spot on that Jacksonville defense. They take him again any day. Next, at pick 8, the Detroit Lions choose Josh Jacobs instead of TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson has been good for his career, yes, I don't think anyone's going to doubt that. But there have been points in his career where Jacobs has been a top 5 running back in the league, a former rush yard leader in the NFL. The Lions are gladly going to select him. The Bills would pick 9 instead of taking Ed Oliver, who is good in his own right, upgrade at D-tackle and select Quinnen Williams. The 3-time Pro Bowler deserves to be taken at 3 in real life. The only reason he falls tonight is because his draft class is quite stacked, which I think is a pattern throughout this video so far. The Bills are happy to have such a talented defensive player on their roster, which, at least in the Josh Allen era, they have been lacking at points. Finally, with pick 10, the Broncos grab an absolute offensive weapon in Scary Terry McLaurin. He has consistently produced regardless of poor quarterback play. His last healthy season, he was 2nd in the entire NFL in touchdowns. The Broncos get more offensive firepower. Now, we're at the COVID draft 2020, and with the 1st overall pick, the Bengals are still selecting Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is a franchise player in Cincinnati and is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL when healthy. So long as he, again, can stay healthy, Burrow's future looks even brighter. At pick number 2, the Commanders, instead of taking Chase Young, which was select Justin Herbert. Herbert has one of the best arms in the entire NFL, and if they could build a good roster around him, Washington could definitely find some success. So the Commanders cannot pass up on Justin Herbert. With pick 3, the Lions, without a doubt, choose, in a way, the best receiver since Calvin Johnson in Detroit, Justin Jefferson. Jefferson is coming off a tough season, with maybe the worst quarterback play in the entire league, but He's a top 4 receiver in the NFL, and that's at worst. Maybe the best route technician in the entire league. The Lions, once again, are not passing up on it. A 5-time 1,000-yard receiver. Insane for how young he is. The Giants at pick 4 select Jordan Love instead of Andrew Thomas. Thomas is great when healthy, that is, but they're not letting a great quarterback slide past them. Yes, I'd say Hurts is better than Love, especially in the playoffs, but Love is more talented, a way better arm, and in my opinion at least, a way higher ceiling. I've got them taking Love, again, like I said, for the ceiling and his high potential. And always remember, folks, Love does hurt. Sorry for that one. My bad. But Jalen Hurts does end up getting taken, this time at pick 5 by the Miami Dolphins. They still end up getting a quarterback, with them getting the former Super Bowl MVP. Hurts is the guy that you can have where quarterback just isn't a worry. And yes, he's very consistent. You have to credit him with that. Not the most popular, but consistent nevertheless. The Chargers desperately needed a quarterback in 2020. So, with pick number 6, the Los Angeles Chargers are selecting Tua Tagovailoa. Tua in 2023 was getting MVP votes out there at one point. If he doesn't get those concussions, I see him being a quality starter for the LA Chargers. With pick 7, the Panthers, instead of taking Derek Brown, who was a great pick, don't get me wrong, they take Tristan Wirfs. Wirfs is one of the best and most consistent tackles in the league, period. The Panthers have had offensive line troubles in the past, specifically with Bryce Young as their quarterback. So yes, they do end up losing Brown, but get an offensive cornerstone. At pick 8, the Arizona Cardinals do not let CeeDee Lamb slide any farther and end up taking an elite receiver. He's hovered in top 5 receiver combos in the entire NFL for most of his career. Lamb brings it all, and now he gets to play on the West Coast in this redraft. The Jaguars at pick 9, instead of taking C.J. Henderson, who only played 10 games in Jacksonville, they take Jalen Johnson. Johnson, when healthy, is a top 5 cornerback in the NFL. Period. He moves from the mid-second round all the way to top 10, and the Bears are pretty sad to lose him. Finally, at pick 10, the Browns, for the second straight year in these redrafts, take a safety, this time Antoine Winfield. Winfield is a premier safety in the NFL. For 3 straight seasons, he was the highest graded safety when it comes to PFF. He's a rare defender in that he can affect the coverage, run defense, pass defense, and that's about it. They continue to bolster the defense. Now, we're halfway into the video, folks, but let's keep moving. We got the 2021 draft next. I'm not here all day. With pick 1, I still have the Jaguars taking Trevor Lawrence. The first couple of years of his career were up and down, for sure. And whether Trevor was the right pick or not was certainly in question before last season. But I feel like right now, after last season, after him being top 5 in MVP voting, I think this pick, as of right now at least, was the right one. Lawrence has finally found himself in the Liam Cohen offense. Then at pick 2, the Jets get a top 5 edge rusher in the league right now, and one of the best defensive players of the modern era, period, Micah Parsons. I physically couldn't allow them to take anyone else. Micah Parsons is an argument for the most explosive defensive player of our generation. The Jets are most definitely taking Mr. Parsons. At pick 3, the San Francisco 49ers choose Jamar Chase instead of Trey Lance. In less than a heartbeat. Jamar Chase is a top 4 receiver in the NFL at worst, and he's a former Triple Crown winner, and, like I said, one of the most recognizable wide receivers of our generation. Pairing him with 2021 Deebo Samuel would have been lethal. With pick number 4, the Atlanta Hawks are passing up on Kyle Pitts and instead taking Patrick Surtain. And goodness, we're 4 picks in. Wow, this class was stacked. Surtain is one of the best defensive backs, probably the best defensive back in the entire league. Multiple-time All-Pro, former Defensive Player of the Year as a corner, and allows a league-low completion percentage to opposing quarterbacks. In no world are the Falcons taking anyone else. Now that Jamar Chase is off the board, the Bengals are definitely taking Penei Sewell with the 5th overall pick. It was a draft day debate all the way back in 2021, but with Chase now off the board, Penei Sewell is definitely the pick. One of the Bengals' issues in the Joe Burrow era has been him getting protected and him getting injured. So, getting him maybe the best offensive lineman in the entire NFL, I think is perfect for Cincinnati, especially with Jamar Chase off the board. The Miami Dolphins, with the 6th overall pick, are taking Amon-Ra St. Brown. From the 5th round all the way to top 10, St. Brown's rise is big. Brown is the best receiver in the draft from LSU. Aside from players who played at LSU. That's 3 mistakes. No more. Lock in. That's a mulligan. Sorry, guys. Goodness. 20 minutes in the video. The Dolphins definitely need a receiver. No offense to Jalen Waddle, but Amon-Ra clears him for sure. Miami is happy to see him here. At pick number 7, the Detroit Lions take Christian Darrisaw. Yes, Darrisaw is not Penei Sewell, but let's be honest, who is? Darrisaw, when healthy, has been a leader and an anchor of the Vikings' offensive line. Detroit still ends up with a talented tackle out of this draft class. With pick 8, the Carolina Panthers select the former Heisman winner, Devonta Smith. Yes, the Panthers used 2 future first-round picks in 2024 and 2025 on receivers, I know, but let's be for real, who is passing on Smith? Carolina gets a bona fide star, who with a less competitive receiver room could shine even more than he has in real life. The Denver Broncos with pick 9 still end up with a great cornerback, this time taking J.C. Horn. Yes, a step down from Patrick Surtain, but Horn is elite in his own right. He brings athleticism and just great play in general across the secondary for the Broncos defense, who back then was developing into something special. Finally, in 2021, the Eagles end up taking Creed Humphrey instead of Devonta Smith. Yes, I'm aware that they did have Jason Kelce, but taking the Pro Bowl caliber center of the future would, at least in my opinion, be the move for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't like them reaching on any other offensive linemen in this class, and they definitely needed offensive line. To continue, we've got the 2022 draft class, and with the first overall pick for the second straight year, the Jags are here, this time selecting Aiden Hutchinson. Pairing Hutch with Hines Allen would almost instantly become the best edge rushing duo in the entire league. Hutchinson is a top 10 edge rusher in the league, and the Jags definitely take him over Trayvon Walker. At pick number 2, the Detroit Lions select Kyle Hamilton, who is considered by most, including me, to be the best safety in the entire league. He's another player that can do it all on the defensive side of the football. Taking a safety at 2 is almost unheard of, but for a guy like Kyle Hamilton, it's definitely worth it. The Texans, with the 3rd pick, are taking Brock Purdy, who goes all the way from Mr. Irrelevant to top 3. An incredible story for Purdy, and whether he returns to the player that he did in San Francisco without Kyle Shanahan is a different argument. But Houston had just lost Deshaun Watson and needed the guy at QB. And Purdy, I believe, is that guy, especially in this weak quarterback class. At pick number 4, the Jets don't change up anything and still select Sauce Gardner. Yes, the end of its Jets tender did end up ending poorly, but Sauce is a former All-Pro and a top 5 level cornerback in the NFL. I don't see the Jets doing anything different. With the 5th pick, the Giants selected Derek Stingley. Yes, there's definitely an argument for him over Sauce Gardner, but I still have the Jets keeping the same. Stingley is a top 5, maybe top 3 corner in the league, and he doesn't allow much of anything to opposing offenses. At pick 6, the Panthers take Trent McDuffie. McDuffie is a 2-time All-Pro, and pairing him with J.C. Horn would almost instantly become not only completely and utterly lethal, but probably the best cornerback duo in the entire league. And the Panthers would get further towards building a consistently good or even great defense. With pick numero 7, I have the New York Giants taking Nick Bonitto. Bonitto in his last 2 seasons has 27.5 sacks and 2 Pro Bowl selections. Bonitto in the NFL has turned into a true disruptor. The Giants would much rather have him than Tavon Thibodeau at edge rusher. After last season, purely based on the potential, I have the Falcons taking George Pickens with the 8th overall pick. George last season had over 1,300 yards, made a second-team All-Pro, and was a leader on the Cowboys' offense. I really do like London, don't get me wrong, but I'm giving the nod to Pickens. With the 9th overall pick, the Seahawks pass on consistency in Charles Cross and instead choose Tyler Smith, who is, by wide margin, the best offensive lineman in this class. A 3-time Pro Bowler and a former All-Pro who has played guard and tackle in the NFL. The Seahawks love to see him all the way at pick number 9. Lastly, in the 2022 draft class, the Jets select Drake London over Garrett Wilson, and I don't feel like this is much of a debate. Yes, Wilson has put up good numbers with bad quarterback play, but London has more versatility, is more physical, and, in my opinion at least, definitely has a higher ceiling. The 2023 draft class is next on the list, and I feel like this one will have some heads turning. This one is controversial, but with the first overall pick, I still have the Carolina Panthers selecting Bryce Young. As a Bryce Young fan and believer, this upcoming season will be make or break for Young. Whether they can say that he's a franchise quarterback or just another guy who wore a Panthers uniform. But until this season occurs or Stroud gets back to the level of his rookie campaign, I just cannot confidently take CJ over him. Next, as you would assume, I have CJ Stroud still getting taken with the 2nd overall pick by the Houston Texans. Since Stroud's rookie season concluded, he hasn't been the same player. CJ just hasn't brought the same energy or level of play. So this year for the CJ Stroud will be very big. With pick 3, once again, it stays the same. The Houston Texans are still taking Will Anderson Jr. 3 for 3. A top 3 edge rusher in the NFL right now, who just finished second in Defensive Player of the Year voting in his 3rd season in the NFL. He's probably the most promising young defensive player in the NFL as of right now, at least in my opinion. Now, our first new selection, with the 4th overall pick, the Indianapolis Colts select Puka Nacua. A top 4 receiver in the NFL at worst, and the league leader in receptions last season, goes number 4. He's so dominant, and the Colts would gladly welcome him with open arms. At pick number 5, the Seahawks cannot pass up on him, and still manage to snag Jackson Smith-Njigba. But this time at pick number 5. Once again, a top 4 receiver in the NFL at worst, and he just won Offensive Player of the Year. The Hawks, thankfully, still end up with their franchise receiver, who just got a big deal this offseason. The Cardinals at pick 6 still end up choosing Jahmyr Gibbs and not letting him fall any further. Yes, the Cardinals should probably take an offensive lineman, but you can't just let a 20-touchdown, top 3, maybe top 1 running back in the NFL just slip right past you. The Cardinals go with the flashy pick here. The Vegas Raiders, with the 7th overall pick, choose tackle Darnell Wright. Their offensive line turned out to be pretty bad, so fixing that problem early would be smart on Vegas' behalf. Darnell has developed into one of the best offensive linemen in the entire NFL while being on the Chicago Bears. With pick number 8, the Falcons still choose a top 3, again, maybe top 1 running back in the NFL, Bijan Robinson. Bijan has become basically unstoppable. Just an incredible weapon, whether it be on the ground or through the air. The Falcons aren't changing a thing. And I feel like the same goes with the Eagles, who are still selecting Jalen Carter with pick number 9. Carter's one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. If he can keep his attitude in check, he will continue to be at this level for many years to come. The Eagles do not pass on Jalen Carter. Finally, with the 10th overall pick, I have the Chicago Bears still addressing the offensive line and taking Paris Johnson. Johnson is a good offensive lineman in his own right and has tons of potential. Yes, he's not Darnell Wright, but he does his job well. Ben Johnson still makes sure the guys on his offense are getting protected, especially his future quarterback in Caleb Williams. Or maybe not. Who knows? 2 more drafts to go. We've got the 2024 NFL Draft. This is a point in the video where you take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. You got to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because these players have only played in the NFL a season or 2, and a lot can change with 3, 4, 5, even just 1 or 2 years. Just saying. So, like I said, one last time, sorry folks, taking everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. With the first overall pick of the 2024 NFL Draft, I still have the Chicago Bears selecting Caleb Williams. Yes, I know Drake May was just an MVP candidate, and Caleb just finished under 60% with his completion percentage, but Caleb's ceiling is beyond this world. I don't see Drake being higher than a top 6 or a top 5 quarterback at best, but I believe Caleb's ceiling is to be the best quarterback in the entire NFL. If he can get his consistency and accuracy in check, this will go down, at least in my opinion, as the right selection. But with pick number 2, I do have the Commanders selecting Drake May. No offense to Daniels, who I believe can and has been an elite quarterback at points, but he only played 7 games last season, and if he continues to his career turns out that way, I think we got to start questioning his durability. May has proven that he can win in the playoffs and has stayed healthy so far in his young career. Now, with the Commanders taking Drake May, the Patriots are still happy with getting Jaden Daniels with the 3rd overall pick. Yes, like I said, Jaden's durability isn't questioned, but he has proven that he can not only be an elite quarterback in his own right, but the moment is never too big for Daniels. Dan Quinn, his head coach, says he has such poise in those winning times. The Cardinals at pick number 4 are continuing the quarterback trend and are selecting Bo Nix. Yes, back then, I know quarterback was not a big worry for Arizona, but with what we know now, hindsight is 2020, Nix might have to be selected. Whether he becomes a player he is or not without Sean Payton or the Broncos defense is a good concern. If he plays after 5 weeks, then screw this pick. I don't see the point in selecting him. If Arizona is going to take them, which I do having them take him, they need to develop him. And if that is the case, I like them taking Bobert. The fifth pick is really tough for me because Joe Alt was an incredible first-round selection to start off the John Harbaugh era in LA. But I still have them taking Jared Verse. Joe Alt would be an anchor on any offense, any offensive line. But a talent like Jared Verse at the defensive line, pairing him up with Jesse Minter for his first 2 seasons would be scary. Joe Alt was an incredible pick in real life, but I do have them changing that selection. The Giants at pick 6, I still have them taking Malik Neighbors. Neighbors posted just under 110 catches and over 1,200 yards in his first season, with Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito throwing him the football. Neighbors is special, and if he can recover from that ACL tear, he'll likely go down as the best receiver in this draft. With pick 7, I still have the Titans ending up taking offensive line. This time, a much better player in Joe Alt. It's tempting to select a weapon for Cam Ward, but Joe Alt would almost immediately become a franchise cornerstone. I think building up the trenches would be the right move for Tennessee. At pick 8, the Falcons pass on potential quarterback and instead take Brock Bowers, who is an offensive weapon. Yes, I know, they do have Kyle Pitts, but I couldn't let Bowers fall any further in this draft. A top 2 tight end in the NFL who has nowhere to go but up. With pick 9, the Bears end up taking Marvin Harrison Jr. Harrison and Rome Odunze have had very similar production in the first 2 years of their career. But 1, Marv has done it in a much worse situation than Rome, and 2, Harrison, in my opinion at least, and I think most people would agree, has much more potential. I think pairing him with Ben Johnson in his second season would lead to a sophomore skyrocket. Wow, I think I just came up with a new term. Finally, at pick 10, we've got the Vikings selecting Michael Penix. Penix going into this draft might have been the most pro-ready quarterback. He hasn't had a ton of success in the NFL, and he is coming off of an ACL tear, I'm aware. But letting him develop in Kevin O'Connell's system could lead to some great things. I think him and Penix would be a perfect fit. Here we are, guys. The last but certainly not least, we've got the 2025 draft class. With pick 1, the Tennessee Titans still end up selecting Cameron Ward. Ward showed flashes of future stardom on that terrible Titans team last season. Everyone in the Titans facility and just the state in general believes that he is the future. They surrounded him with some more weapons in the offseason, so they should be excited and ready for this upcoming season. With pick 2, the Browns do not end up trading this pick away and are selecting Jackson Dart. The Browns definitely need a quarterback. And when healthy, Dart looks like the best rookie quarterback out of his entire class. So long as he can, minimize the self-inflicted harm, I don't see the Browns passing on him at all. The Browns are very quarterback needy, and there are a lot of teams like that, and I don't see any quarterback needy team passing on Dart, let alone the Cleveland Browns. The Giants at the 3rd overall pick are now taking Tyler Shough. Shough, though in limited starts, I'm aware, posted solid numbers, even better tape. Shough is in the running threat the Dart is, but they don't call him Vanilla Vic down in New Orleans for no reason. Shough turns 27 in September, which is insane for a second-year quarterback, but it isn't as big of a worry when it comes to, playing the quarterback position, and he looked like a quality starter last season. At pick 4, the Patriots still end up going tackle, but this time choose Kelvin Banks Jr. The Saints basically have deemed him as a franchise tackle after just 1 season. The Patriots haven't given up on Will Campbell just yet, but Kelvin was a much better offensive lineman last season. Patriots decide to build up the O-line, just like they did in real life, but with maybe, so far at least, the better selection. The Jaguars are still taking Travis Hunter, this time with pick number 5, and not having to give up nearly as much to get him. Yes, last season ended unfortunately with a season-ending injury, but he showed promise on both sides of the ball. The Jaguars seem all in on him, and they're even saying that he's going to play both sides of the ball next year. He's an incredible athlete, and we'll see if he pans out in Jacksonville next season. With pick 6, the Raiders go offensive line instead of taking Ashton Jeanty and select Will Campbell. No one disagrees that Ashton Jeanty is a great NFL player, but their offensive line last season was hot garbage. 64 sacks allowed and were last in the league in yards per carry. Campbell did show promise, though limited. There was a reason he was the first offensive lineman off the board. Vegas could have gotten lucky with a back on day 2 and gotten some offensive line help. The New York Jets, with the 7th overall pick, end up selecting Abdul Carter. Carter, yes, he only had 4 sacks last season and was benched twice for disciplinary reasons, but he had 3.5 of his 4 sacks in the last 5 weeks of the season. The Jets are lacking a lot of things, but a defensive anchor is one of those things. If he can get his act together, Carter is definitely the pick. With pick 8, I think it's pretty simple. The Panthers are still selecting Tedero McMillan. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It is as simple as that. Tedero McMillan last season won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's the future of that Panthers roster, that offense in general. With pick 9, the Saints are now taking Armand Membu. Yes, his 8 sacks allowed and 11 penalties last season don't seem too pretty, but he has a ton of physical tools, and everyone on the Jets organization believes that he is part of their future. The Saints need tackle, end up taking the best on the board. Finally, we've got our last pick of the entire video, and we're ending on a reach selection. The Chicago Bears are still selecting Colston Loveland with a 10th pick. It took him a while to catch fire, but he ended up leading his team in receiving yards during the playoffs. The Bears drafted Caleb a weapon for hopefully many years to come. He's going to be great in Ben Johnson's system. Oh, one more breath, folks. This video was a ton. For those still watching, thanks for tuning in. What I learned from this video is that the NFL draft is really difficult. A lot of teams don't get it right. Tons of busts, tons of late round gems, and a couple right selections here and there. Make sure to like and subscribe. This is Full Time Takes. I'm your host, Kellen. Thanks for watching.